welcome back to another episode. So today, really excited, we have a special guest, Luke Infinger. Am I saying that correctly? I thought I was for a long time.
At least I think that's how you say it.
Yeah. So. Well, with Geier, I always am very conscious of of getting people's names right. Yeah. But very excited to talk about what we have planned for today, and it is going to be all around marketing and really some of the misconceptions, but also just, you guys work with a lot of doctors. We work with a lot of doctors, and what hopefully we can show is how do you maybe make some better decisions around your marketing, right? So, Luke, tell everybody a little bit about you guys and yourself. And
Luke Infinger, based in Pensacola, Florida. So short little flight over to Atlanta to see you guys. My background's actually in creative. I did a lot of graphic design and motion graphics, worked in the big city. Long story short, that was not for me, and started to develop a framework around helping business owners reach long-term goals. And so having a strategy for a year, 2 years, 5 years of what that looks like in a roadmap. And we just happened to start growing within healthcare. And then we met a guy, Dr. Ben Fishbein, who's local to our area. That was the first orthodontist we worked with. And a lot of listeners may have heard of him or know his growth. But if not, he went from kind of a smaller practice that he was able to purchase from an established doctor to the fastest growing orthodontist in the country. So along the way, we decided to go all in on orthodontics. It just made a lot of sense. And now we're into dentistry as well, so multi-specialty within dental, and really have a framework that isn't just marketing. We were talking about this earlier. There's a tech component and a software component and kind of like a reporting dashboard, so we can know where everything stands, and we're really production first. So, we'll get into misconceptions of looking at vanity metrics like clicks and impressions. And while those can be important sometimes, what's really important is, did these leads turn into patients? Right. So that's what we're focused on. And that's where a lot of our alignment, even in conversations, has been too. So that's just a little bit about us. Hip Creative, and we talked about this too. We recently merged with Neon Canvas. So if we want to talk about that, we can. But hundreds of clients, orthodontic and dental, across both brands, well over 100 team members in like 32 different states. So while we're based in Florida, there's a lot going on elsewhere. Yeah. So
no, love it. And, obviously, so we first got introduced through a couple of mutual clients. Yes. And so I think that that list continues to grow, and I think that leans to some of the things you're saying, right? So, and I know the first time we spoke, you brought up that component of tracking and really understanding the result that you're trying to drive. That's right. Specifically in digital marketing. Yep. Right. So I think to your point, right, everybody talks about, well, how many likes did the post get, or how many views, or whatever it may be. But we're in the new patient business here. That's right. We're not in the business of getting famous, right? It's like, well, that may be a side effect of doing it well, right? You'll take that. But I know something that I heard a long time ago, and I think it holds true. It's like, you can choose to be rich and famous. You can choose to be famous, or you can choose to be rich. Yeah. Which one do you want? Yeah. And unless you're a teenager, you choose the rich one, and you don't. Fame comes with a lot of other things. That's right. So let's maybe we can just start there, right? So sure. When you think about, especially on the digital marketing side, right? That's over the last maybe 5 to 7 years. You'd know better than me. Just the buzzwords, SEO. Right? Digital marketing, online marketing.
Now it's AI.
Social media, digital marketing, right? So for the doctor or the office manager, the in-house marketing person in a practice, right? Like, how do we cut through the the buzzword and the 17 marketing companies that pop up, every year, basically, and really understand what should an office be looking for when it comes to marketing help.
I will preface it with it does matter what your practice personality is. How do you envision your business? What are your goals? Someone who may be in more of a lifestyle practice may not want to grow and scale, and we are production first, so maybe that's not the best fit, and now with Neon Canvas, there are options where we can speak more, deliver more to multiple practice personalities. And, that's something that we're really working on because it does vary. But I will tell you, most people in business do want to grow.
Right.
If you're not growing, you're shrinking, especially in small business. I mean, and now it's more competitive than ever before, especially even with dentist or orthodontist. People can go on the internet and find all kinds of options from the DIYers to maybe the big corporate chains.
Right.
And so marketing and positioning is more important, I think, than ever before. But it's also, like you're saying, how do you cut through the clutter? And so I think first, if we just want to talk high level, it's finding someone with a proven strategy. Now, how do you find this proven strategy? Well, testimonials. Have you been able to talk to their clients? Because anyone can get on a call and say anything, for the most part. I can spin information, but in due diligence, am I actually looking at case studies, hearing testimonial videos, getting to talk to some of their clients? And we're very transparent about that. A lot of our best doctors, we call them partners, will take calls for us. And I think a lot of that matters because then you can go peer to peer and how did this work for your practice? Now, again, all practices are not created equal, but I think that's the best indicator. And there's a billion marketing companies out there, right? And the last thing we want you to have to do is agency hop. But the reality is that's what you're going to have to do until you land and partner with someone who really integrates the marketing into your operations. And it is production first. So you're not focused on clicks and bounce rate and, cost per lead or cost per click or all these things that at the end of the day, if I'm putting myself in the client's shoes, I want to know how much did I spend and what was the return? And what are my options to maybe grow that and increase that?
Yeah. No. In, that same language of, well, ultimately the result is paramount, right? Now, obviously on what we do, it's a lot of, if someone is doing marketing, how do we really make it more effective, right? And not because it's not getting attention, not because maybe the leads aren't coming in, right? But it's, well, how does the team, right? We talk a lot about this concept of the new patient pipeline or a funnel, right? Which, in any other business, you hear those words very often, but in dental space, not necessarily quite as much. But every touch point along that path, right? There's a person that works in the office that is in some way influencing that person who has been marketed to either show up, respond, call, whatever it is. And so do you ever have people come to you and they're just hoping that, getting the digital marketing is going to be the silver bullet that changes everything?
Yeah, so a big misconception, I mean, we can talk about a couple, but that's a big one, is like the kind of light switch or magic bullet, pipe dream, whatever you want to call it. And, a lot of times too, the staff really dictates what happens at the practice. It can't just be the doctor's vision. So if the team isn't bought in, then it's probably not going to work. And so that light switch thing of like, well, I hired a new marketing vendor. I heard him speak. It's going to be great. He comes back to the team and the team goes, well, here we go again.
Yep.
More work for us. We don't know what the process is. When are these leads going to start coming in? How do we keep up with them? Do we have a system to put them in? Now is there automation that can happen? So now the team's frustrated. And then you guys probably deal with this all the time is, the front desk, are they trained? Are they maybe incentivized?
Right.
Because that is kind of like a sales role. It's the first, it's literally the first person or the first interaction someone has with your brand. So that's very important too. But yeah, the light switch thing, we get a lot of like, well, I signed up, and it's like we changed our whole onboarding flow to make sure there's buy-in, and where there is belief that it is going to be a light switch, we hopefully kind of remove those people during onboarding, because we got a partner. That's why we literally call our clients partners, is if we're not going to be in it together, then this probably isn't going to work. And if you just want a light switch, you will continue agency hopping. And you can see that in the past journey. It's like, because marketing is a dirty word, but why? Well, we've hired 4 marketing companies, and they all had the same promise. And it's like, but it wasn't integrated. Is this vendor that you went and bought this thing? It's like, if I go buy a stock, I don't have to partner with Apple, and that stock's going to grow. That's not really what happens with community marketing and small business marketing. It literally has to be integrated. So that's a big one. The other one is, well, these are bad patients.
Yep.
And it's, now we all know there's bad leads. I'm sure you guys get bad leads. We had a roofer opt into our orthodontic ad or our dental ad the other day. It happens. But the mindset cannot be bad leads. If the mindset's bad leads, then you just flush all the leads down the toilet. And
you ever seen what's the movie? Glenn Ross, Glenn Gary?
I haven't seen
it's
that.
Alec Baldwin.
Okay.
And it's the, you ever heard Coffees for Closers?
Yes,
so it's that movie.
Okay.
And the whole thing, like I remember we were in Park City, and my dad's like, you got to watch this movie. You're in sales. You got to watch this movie. It's like, okay. So we sit down and watch this. Now, mind you, I think he recalled the movie being better than it was, because it took us 3 separate seatings to get through it. But we finally get to this scene that he's trying to get me to see, right?
Here it is.
And he's like, it's about to happen, right? And this guy is basically saying, these leads suck, right? And they're like they're literal paper leads. Like, here are your, blue cards of leads that you're getting from corporate or whatever. He's like, the leads are garbage. And Alec Baldwin's character is basically like, there's nothing wrong with the leads. You're the problem. And you don't get any coffee until you get over that or something, right? And so, and I was like, okay, so basically we have an industry of practice owners who, to your point, that person who's answering that phone call or maybe making an outbound call to someone who is a lead, right? It is a sales role.
It is.
Which, talk about marketing being a bad word, sales is also
it is.
I mean, I think it's gotten a little bit better, right? There's more people that talk about it, but sometimes we got to stray away.
Yeah, I don't want this to be salesy.
Yeah, it's not about no, it's not. But that person has shown they're interested in what you provide, and the cool thing about what our clients provide for people, it's pretty important.
Yes.
I think you could argue that in some cases, life-changing work. Right? And so we're going to do everything we can do to possibly help as many people as we can, because we know what's on the other side, right? But that's a whole different marketing and sales philosophy, and I assume that's what you guys have for your company too, right? Which is exactly what that doctor or team member should be thinking of. But that front desk person, that person in the call center, right? They're a salesperson. But we don't ever really talk about them like that. I mean, you guys might, but
but they came from the clinic.
But that's an important switch.
Yeah,
because if you have someone who's sitting there and they've been up front answering the phone, greeting the patients at the front door for the last 17 years, and all of a sudden you come in and it's like, okay, now it's really important we convert these patients, or we got to make sure we get them in because we know that there's there's predictable production downstream, right? Because we have this same challenge, right? There's that response of, oh, well, these people are just money hungry or whatever, right? do you get that from people ever?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, there's so many factors that go into bad leads and maybe reframing that for the practice.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing is you can't really blame them because a lot of these doctors have lived by traditional referrals. That's how their business has survived. So there has to be a big shift because the way people behave now with the internet, it's so different. I mean, I read a study the other day in Time Magazine. It was a study from Microsoft that humans now have a lower attention span than a goldfish. But
which isn't that the notoriously lowest
it's like
span of any animal?
7 seconds, 8 seconds is a goldfish. Now humans are 7. It's probably even lower with GPT and AI. I've been reading studies of people having to write papers and do research without AI, then leveraging GPT, and then the recall is like almost 0% with the people who use AI. And so if you have empathy for the consumer and you understand what they're going through, and they're in all these apps, Instagram, Facebook, Messenger, their phone's ringing, they get 200 emails a day and half of them don't delete them all, or they delete all of them so they don't see your email, they don't check their voicemail. If you have extreme empathy and you're on the front lines and you're bought in, you kind of have a conviction of, I need to reach this person because they are interested. If they raise their hand for a dentist, they may be in extreme pain. This could be an emergency. If they raise their hand for an orthodontist, the smile transformation that can happen in the confidence, even with cosmetic dentistry. And so there has to be a complete mindset shift and knowing do you answer phone calls from the first call from an unsaved number? No, I don't.
I'm pretty sure I screen them actively.
Yeah, I don't check my voicemail.
And if they don't leave a voicemail or text me, I just assume it's spam.
Certain structured text, like especially long text with a bunch of emojis in it, I instantly tune out. I don't even read it. I'm just like, oh, this must be something I opted into. And you have to understand, too, that people are opting into a lot of stuff.
Right.
The average user per day, I think, will see, I don't know, like 20 to 30 different ads. There's an ad every 2 scrolls every 2 to 3 taps in a story based on what platform you're on. And so, 20 to 30 is low. If somebody's spending hours online, they could be seeing 100 ads in a day. So what else are they opting into? And the algorithm knows so much about them. They're just feeding them. And now I buy tons of stuff on the internet. Like, well, maybe I need that. So the empathy piece with the consumer is huge, because if I have empathy, if I have the right mindset, I know it's just a numbers game. And these people were interested, but I'm going to have to remind them who I am, why they were interested. Oh, yeah, I did opt in for that. Or like, well, I'm not really sure. And then they go into a follow-up sequence. So the game has changed, but the people who can have the biggest and highest upside and help the most people, they've adapted, and so that key piece of just evolution within business, if you don't change and adapt, you're going to be left in the dust, you know?
No, it's good. And, I think when you consider like the structure of it, right? And I know there's a lot of people out there who just don't quite know where to start, right? Which I think is
it's overwhelming.
Part of why the barrier of entry to say you have a marketing company, right? Like there are people who, we talked about this earlier. It's like you can put up a couple of ads on Meta and all of a sudden you're a accredited marketing agency, right? Right? And it's just like, okay. So if I am a doctor, right? And there's a whole other side of this. And if you have not listened to previous episodes, this is the time to go do so, because you need to focus on some of those things probably before you get to the marketing component. But say we have our systems in line, right? The team is very much so focused on they have common goals. They're working in that direction. We've got systems to make sure that the calls or leads that are coming in, while it might not be many, right, are converting at a high level, right? And we feel as if we've reached that kind of that ceiling.
Yep.
Right. We're maximizing the calls we're getting. We're following up with those people, which is a whole other thing we could talk about for an hour. And we're also, have a pretty healthy referral base, right? What makes someone like a prime candidate, prospect, to really take that step into getting serious about the marketing?
Sure. There's a couple things, and then I'll mention the main one that really is applicable to everybody watching or listening. But if everything you just said is true in practices, which is pretty rare, the systems are right, and that's a lot of what you guys do is help them get ready to maximize this. If that's all done, you're struggling to grow, then your marketing probably you've outgrown it. So it is kind of somewhat status quo, and there may be good components to it, like there may be good branding or good graphic design, or maybe the company does some really good videos, but they don't really understand production and they don't understand the new patient flow in a dental or orthodontic practice. So partnering with somebody who understands that is key. And then the delivery is really important. A lot of dentists and orthodontists, they don't have a sales funnel. So we were talking about Dan Kennedy earlier and Jay Abraham, and they're like the grandfathers of direct response marketing, and they were so good at crafting irresistible offers. Like it's so good I have to opt in, And they were very legitimate people too, I believe. They could literally stand behind their promises and claims that they made. But that's what we have to do for you in your community. And that could look totally different based on, are you a boutique with high fees? Or do you have a low fee model? That's become very popular. Are you in network with all insurances? And are you in a state that, has a decent plan with Medicaid? It's going to look different based on those factors. But I can tell you if a practice has, all their ducks in a row, the single greatest, most powerful platform to drive new patients is Meta. It's Facebook and Instagram. And the reason why is it doesn't deliver based on search. So Google can be very high intent because you could go, or let's just say, we were talking about kids earlier. I have a 7-year-old. So she's at that age to see an orthodontist and get maybe into observation or phase 1. If I go online and search orthodontist near me or best orthodontist in Pensacola, that's search, that's Google. That's really good. You could run Google ads and come up for that term, and you could rank organically with really good SEO. Now you could even deliver and be number one if somebody asks ChatGPT, which is pulling from platforms like Facebook and Reddit and various online platforms to deliver the prompt, right? So you could do that. But where does everybody hang out? Especially moms between the ages of 25 to 45, they're all on Instagram and Facebook. And they're the main decision maker for most families. But even we spend a lot of time on Instagram. I mean, I see you like my stories, And so we've got
some new chickens.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotta make
the
sure
the farm's growing, And so I can reach people. And Meta tracks even your thumb hover over the screen. So they know when you slow scroll on content. They know when you hover. They know probably more about you and how you interact with content than anyone on the planet. And so it's very powerful, and it can deliver the same ad over. And so if you look at like watches or something we were talking about, all of a sudden you're seeing watches, or you're seeing cases for watches, or watch winders or cleaners. You're just getting more and more delivery because the algorithm is getting more dialed in. That's what it can offer to the practitioners listening or watching. Now, the caveat is you're going to get a lot of people who are not very familiar with your brand, or they were just doing research, so they're not very serious. So in a sales funnel where you have people who are just becoming aware and then making consideration later and then a decision, you're getting people at all stages in the funnel, and you have to be okay with that. But why wouldn't you be? Because what if you get a lead and they start in 2 years? But orthodontists and dentists don't really think that way.
Right.
They think, well, I spent this month. What am I getting this month? But with Meta, you can really build your pipeline. You can build your email list. You can build your text blast list. So you can do reactivation campaigns. And I mean, we see this happening as practices who grow with us, they have the highest ROI in year 2 and 3, or beyond, because that pipeline's building. Another thing, and I know this is long-winded, but just to kind of put a bow on this, partners who start talking, especially to me, about bad leads, I'll pull them up in the system while they're talking. I'll say, Dr. John, did you know that you opted in with us 5 years ago? Oh, was it that long ago? I guess how many times we called you? I don't know, maybe like 8 times or 60 times. You got 35 texts, you got, an email once a week.
Right.
And then 3 months ago, you decided to actually get on a call. So were you a bad lead? Should I literally have just D&D'd you and put you in the bad lead column and never contacted you again? Well, no. Right? So again, you have to think through how consumers behave. And sometimes we can really have blind spots with that, and tunnel vision. I saw this case study on your website or whatever. Well, let me unpack with you why that case study exists.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure, there's always the putting a great case study out there, right? It's always fascinating to me to watch someone see that, right? Total transformation, practice is different, doctor is different, literally looks different. Like, team is in a better place, has better opportunities. But there's a lot of people out there who will see that, want that, ask for that, but they're not willing to spend the money, the time, or the energy that it takes, right? So how does that play? Because for us, right, we're very much in not that you're not in the people business, but we're very much, here's exactly how you should do this. Let's make sure we're ready to handle this. Here's how we want to answer that question. Here's how we want to set up for the presentation of the treatment for that patient, right? Like, being willing to change the things they're doing on the day-to-day. There are people who are willing to do it, and there are people who aren't, right? And then they will say, well, I didn't get what that guy got. Well, I can walk you through the 64 times we've sent someone to train their team over the last 15 years, right? Like, it's a different level of commitment, right? And so I have to imagine on the marketing side, we kind of do want that silver bill. We kind of do want that next month result, right? And they don't quite know where to spend the money. So for the doctor out there who has done the DIY, right? I'll be honest, I come across a lot of doctors that are like, well, I've been placing my pay-per-click ads and I'm running my Google ads, and this one's just not quite hitting the mark. And so to that person, right, at what point do we need to start looking outside for that, right? Like, is there a threshold of a number of new patients coming in, practice size, where it just might not make sense to, with all of the different things you have to keep your eyes on, to keep that with like one part-time person in the house? Yeah,
there's a couple things that I'll say. So typically, if you're sub $1 million, in production, maybe even collections, it's pretty tough, because you do have to make a pretty serious investment based on your goal, not where you're at today. Right. Where do you want to be? And you have to invest into that. So if you don't have cash flow, if you don't have a line of credit, if you don't have a loan, it can be very difficult. Now, we have some incredible case studies with startups, but the reality is most of those doctors were working 2 to 3 days as an associate, saved up enough money, kind of scaled back, did their startup, and phased out. We've had people who have phased out of their corporate job within a year, which I think is really good. They hit over $1 million in production in their first year of practice. I think for startups, specifically today, it is really tough. I mean, they have more debt. If you think about building out an office, the equipment you have to have, it's a
plus
steep
the student loan
student
debt,
lines.
which God knows how high that gets
student
for
loans. Yeah, it's a lot, and so you have to have a business plan and a strategy. So the people that I see doing really well with startups are forming that business plan, doing their research, securing the investment wherever that may be, and then that can go really well. Now, I don't like to talk about this a lot, but there have been some Hail Mary type situations where people are just like stuck at $500K, and we decided that we were also going to make a good investment into them of like, okay, like this could go really bad for us because if it doesn't work, you're going to trash our brand probably to who you talk to. But I really believe you that you'll implement. Mm-hmm. And so let's do this. And we've taken somebody, over 4 years from stuck at $500K for years, tried marketing, tried a bunch of consultants. For whatever reason, it didn't work. Mm-hmm. They went from $500K to almost $3.5 million in a small community. And that's another thing is location is really important. If you do a startup or you have a practice in New York City, how much are you going to have to spend to get attention? Probably a lot more than like outskirt areas of Atlanta or where I am, Pensacola. So that's a key thing too. If I'm talking to a resident and he's like, yeah, I'm going to get out and go start a practice in LA. It's like, hey, you need to know what you're in for.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of factors, but I would say just generally outside of startups, if you're over $1 million and you're willing to change, you're willing to hire, maybe work with someone like you guys to improve that system, or they already have maybe, and now they're ready to grow beyond that. It's a really good time to do some strategic marketing, but make sure that it's proven within your specialty.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I think I appreciate you coming. I was going to say down, but I think technically we are north of Pensacola.
I came down on the airplane.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for completing the descent. No, I think this has been great. And I think the last thing I'll ask you, and I think this is something that we share, and you mentioned it. If I'm that doctor and I'm watching this, and I have tried a number of marketing companies, right? Because I hear horror stories all the time. People will come to us and they'll say, right, they're like, we need to get our new patients up. They're coming to us because they've tried this marketing company. They've tried that marketing company. They're still in contract with both of them. And it's like, how did we even get here, right? Now, I won't say that it's not exactly what they say.
Right.
Because what do they say? The story is
the
marketing company gave me this false promise, and then I signed up with this other one, and that's not working either. Meanwhile, I just called their practice, and the person up front doesn't even offer appointments and asks for no information to follow up with the patient. So their order is wrong, but how often are they actually taking responsibility for that and coming to you and saying, hey, I've tried these other 3, but I know I was the common denominator and why it didn't work. And now I'm ready to actually take it seriously. How often does that happen?
That's pretty rare. I think that's just pretty rare, though, in life. When we talk about understanding people, consumer behavior, understanding psychology, now we will start to pick up on that and vaccinate against that. Well,
I like that. Vaccinating against it.
Do you want that to happen again?
Yeah.
Maybe here's a different perspective of how it. So we will try to open them up and reframe that because, if you just go from thing to thing to thing and it's not working, well, Brian Tracy, who is, he's kind of within that realm with Dan Kennedy and Jay. He talks a lot about locus of control. And everybody who looks externally is a victim.
Yeah.
By and large. Obviously, everything could be like the 80-20 rule. There could be a true, no, it really was this person's fault. That happens 100%. But when you take the mindset of 80% of the time looking introspectively, well, what could I have done better? How could I have led better? Could I have communicated this to the team better? Maybe the marketing company really didn't understand us. They were running this type of ad, but that's not who we are. That's not who the community is. So there's all these things that you can start to take responsibility for. And by and large, that's the mindset that in any business does the best, because it's extreme ownership, it's responsibility. And certainly I'm not trying to put it off on the doctor, but yes, I mean, you really do have to be humble enough and open enough to change. If they're working with you guys, I'm sure you see, if they're not open to change, what are you going to do?
It's very hard to move the needle.
Yeah. So it's the same with us, and that is the X factor. So if you're listening to this, watching, and you're like, hey, we are ready for a change. We want to grow. We want to adapt. We will listen to experts. Then, it could be a really good fit.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I think I'll leave it with this. A lot of times people think about the order of operations, right? And I know we had a conversation, and I think it's in a previous episode that we re-aired that you guys did, talking with Dr. Goldberg and Dr. Rochford, right? You have one guy who systems first, marketing second, and then you had one who just did them both at the same time. So I think the good news is either way, either approach works, right? The question is just, what are you looking for? Right? And I think no matter what, I'll say this for me, I'll let you decide if you want to say it for you, but, it's always been the case, and I think it always will be. The people who want something different enough to do something different can see really, really great things and results happen in the practice. And the ones who don't typically won't. And we're okay if we don't get to be a part of that.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it really comes down to what do you want your life to be like? What do you want your practice to be like? And I mean, I kind of blend those things, because for small business owners, I mean, you're in like a family business.
Yeah,
it's
all
like,
one. It's all one song.
Yeah. So think through that. Maybe find someone to emulate and reverse engineer.
Yeah.
And it really does work. And I think kind of what you said is, in most cases, you need to build it back to front, because that is the order for success. If you just have a marketing and sales machine and, terrible fulfillment,
right,
that's not going to work. And so if you really, obviously doctors, they're great in the clinic, and then build back to front.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Luke, thank you again for coming up to Atlanta and joining us here. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
If for any of the listeners that want to kind of learn more about you guys, get in touch with you, how can they do that?
They can go to hip.agency, not .com. So hip.agency. They can learn more about everything that we do, fill out a contact form. You could also follow me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, shoot me a DM. Would love to connect with them.
Love it. Awesome. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.